So it's like, because these people have developed their charismatic presence to such a degree that this transference in their audience and the people they work with is so great that it can turn sexual on a dime, right? Or it can turn into a transaction of some kind, you see, on a dime. And then if the person who's in that position is not ethical, they're going to use that vulnerability in their students, especially for their own purpose, for their own gain. And don't just, we're not, try to recognize here that we're not talking about other people. We're talking about us, we're talking about you, talking about me. If you're a human being, this is an ever-existent pitfall. And the best way to avoid the pitfall is first to just be aware of it. That as you take on more and more spiritual energy, people are going to be attracted to you for either good or ill. Usually it's good, but you will draw negative to you as well. So, because light draws its opposite sometimes. So just be aware of that, and be aware, and the important thing is not to take it personally, because if your goal is to become a Christed being, to really become one with Christ and therefore one with the Father, that's going to happen. And that's not you, that's the Christ. Technically, yeah, it's you, but it's not you. It's not the ego you. So you have to keep that front and center at all times, and realize that just because people are attracted to you, it doesn't mean that it's you. Don't take it personally, because it's definitely not. You have to be very attentive. You can't just be listening to me or anybody exclusively to what's going on in here. You should have like 2/3 of your attention in here and 1/3 out here. You see, and always run, especially because what we're talking about is serious stuff. This is serious stuff because it has to do with your soul and what happens in your soul and how to, help your soul grow and all of that. So it's very serious stuff. So that puts even more responsibility on you to listen very intently within. Does this resonate or not? And if it doesn't, is it something that needs to be challenged, or is it just something I need to set aside for now? Maybe it's not, maybe it's true for him, it's not true for me, or, like the way we do with our experiences, they're different. But keep an ear open for what you're in, and it can manifest as a feeling like, pay attention to that. That's your responsibility to keep up with it.
Well, that's very good that you say that. But well, first of all, we're going to have really long classes at that point because we're going to have to be really careful. But also, I think there's a tendency, there's a teacher, we have that tendency to, not idolize, but, the teacher is supposed to know more than we do. And I think sometimes we negate our inner instincts because of that, right? And that's kind of where the problems start.
Yeah, that's very true. Right? So, but that's the beauty and the advantage of being in dialogue, right? Because we keep a dialogue going. It's not just me sitting on a pedestal preaching. I'll read something, I'll put something out there, but then I invite you guys, hey, what do you think, right? So there's the dialogue. And in that, then we can both test each other. Because I may be seeing something and missing something else entirely. And always be aware that no matter, oh, God, I hate teachers like this, and I've been guilty of it myself, where if you're a teacher, you think you know every goddamn thing about every goddamn thing. You're all of a sudden an expert in science. You're all of a sudden an expert in psychology. You ask me anything and I will tell you everything there is to know about it, right?
Yep.
It is such a high level of bullshit. It's so not true. Every one of you has stuff that you know so much better than, not that I'll ever know, but that I'm even capable of knowing, right? Everybody's brain has their strong points and weak points.
Some
Okay.
of it is how it's presented too, though, Michael. I mean, when you say things, you're talking to us. And so I'm receptive to listen and
Right.
think about it, and if I question it. But if somebody's talking at you, or if they're yelling at you, you feel like they're yelling at you, I tend to, and I'm a Cancer, so I tend to go back into my shell. It's like, oh, hell no, I'm not going there with you, but that's how I feel, I mean, I feel somewhat intimidated. And usually the intimidation comes from, no, I don't agree with what's being said, but I also don't feel like I can come back with a response at that time because of the way it's being presented.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes my response is, mentally, I'll kiss my ass to you later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Renee, there's another aspect to this, and it's easily misunderstood, but it really is good to know that you can, when you, especially if you're teaching and something comes up for you that you know that it's for your students who you're teaching, then you have to stand on it. You have to speak it. You can say things like, I say blah blah blah, right? Because what you're doing when you say that, it's almost like if you write an article for a publication, you put your name on that. And the main reason you put your name on it is because you want people to know that it's you and that you're taking responsibility for it. And if they know it's you, then they can either accept or reject it. You see, you're giving the other person the power to accept or reject. So if you can bring that into your speaking and kind of sign the words you say and say, I say this, and then you have to get up on top of that and stand on it and see if it holds your weight, right? If you make an assertion, you have to stress it to see if it holds water. So that's what dialogue is for. But if you're tentative in what you say, you'll never know, because you're just kind of floating an idea out there to see if somebody likes or dislikes it. But liking and disliking has nothing to do with the validity of an assertion, of your word. You see, your word, you have to speak your word and then stand on it. And by that, you mean, you have to take responsibility for it, and you have to act as though what you just said is real. You see, because that's the only way you're going to find out if it is. Very scientific approach to your words, to your speaking.
Michael, this is, I'm thinking about where this started with Rebecca's point and where it's gone. So you enter into a relationship with a teacher because there's a sense that they have something that you want, they've been through a process, and they can get you there. But at some point, they're leading you to trust your own, the self, right?
Yeah.
And then so it's to me it seems very, very difficult, very delicate then to change that relationship. I mean, there's at first to me there's such a power differential, a gradient that it's hard to find a voice because you're dependent. They're leading you to find the voice, and then you have to get to a point where you have to trust your voice, and it may cause at that point a separation from the teacher.
Yeah.
I have to interject here, sorry. one of the things, well, only because when I was in the order, we started we started a school, and one of the things one of our teachers said, and I think this was really good, is as a teacher, you're a midwife, and then you let someone go. So a teacher isn't just a teacher. I mean, I think that's the crux of it. You're not just teaching all the time. You have to be able to let the person develop their own, like you said, your own self. Of course, we're listening to Michael because he's had experiences that some of us haven't had. But at a certain point, you also have to respect your own experiences, and they may not be quite at that level. But in the end, and I think this is where a lot of mistakes can be made, is, we idolize someone that we totally forget ourselves and our own experiences, even if they're not as, high up there
Mhm.
as some of the other people's are. But that was really good when I heard that. You're a teacher, you're a parent, you're a midwife, right? And then you're letting someone go to be their own, spiritual person. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're the midwife, it's their baby.
Yeah,
Midwife doesn't take the baby.
exactly. Yeah. You're helping give birth to something, right?
Yeah.
But it's not yours. You're right.
And when it's done, then you're done.
Yeah, thank goodness. Yep.
See, that's hard for a teacher too, because teachers, being human, will want to hang on to their students.
Mhm.
And depending on just how crazy they are, that can get really pathological, right?
Yeah. Well, it has in the past. Yeah.
Because the teacher then wants all of his students to become like the 30-year-old who lives in his mother's basement, right? I'll take care of you. You just stick around and make me look good.
Worship. Yeah.
So this guy, this can be really therapeutic, because I know we've all had teachers like that and we're just sick to death of it. But it's also very good to know that if you've had a teacher like that and then you take on students of your own, you're going to recapitulate a lot of that crap. Just know that that's going to happen, but just get it over with as quickly and as painlessly as you can. It's going to come out, believe me. So it's a little, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Because the light is power, and therefore the more of it you take on, the more influential you will be. And people will either gravitate towards that because people like confidence, they like competence, they like vitality, right? So that's why we adore movie stars and celebrities like that, because they've got all of this vitality and all of this presence and personality, right? But boy, you do one little thing and the crowd can descend on you viciously. So if especially if you take on any kind of a public ministry, whether you're teaching classes or administering the sacraments or whatever you do in that way, you have to be very careful about perception and your actions, especially, and just be aware of that, because the more positive you become in terms of spiritual energy, you're going to draw those who are in a polarity sense, who are negative to you, and they come to you seeking what you have. So you just have to be very mindful and considerate of that dynamic, and not let it switch into something that it should never be, right?
So Michael,
Yeah.
Looking back at history and some of those people who have a great amount of light and having fallen, so how can we let's say, humanly guard ourselves from that other than being attentive, which, we're human. So any other ways to do that?
Yeah, don't be afraid to disagree. If you've got an inner voice, you have the self, and if the self, if I say something or if somebody else says something and you get a no, I mean, then the responsibility is on you, not on me. It's on you. You got to say, wait a minute, and we do that plenty in these classes, right? You guys do.
No.
So, yeah, but you have to. You see, you have to.